Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Dan Banchero Show, only on YouTube. I'm your host, and it's still a major league pace of work, Dan Banchero. Hope you're all ready for the 4th of July weekend. A lot of stuff going on in the world today. Everybody's got mixed emotions about certain things. Some people are handling it pretty well. Some people aren't handling it very well. A lot of different opinions and views and solutions and not so solutions being expressed and actions being taken to make things better and worse. But welcome to Earth. So I've had a great fun time the last couple of weeks. I got to go to Arizona to visit Stella for Father's Day. I got to go down to Salt Lake City, Utah, in that area last weekend for a little visit with my relatives, my father's side of the family. Got to get caught up with them. Barbecues, good dining out at restaurants, Domino's, laughs. It was a good time. Got to meet the kids, and very blessed, very blessed. However, I have other situations going on that aren't so comfortable, cause me a little bit of distress, a little bit of disturbance. And I've been laying off the exercise the last few months. Been doing some stuff at the park here and there, but it's been at least 4 weeks since I've been doing any physical exercise, and I got the chance to go back to work at True Food Kitchen last week with that fun staff down there. So got the activity in the legs and back a little bit more, which is great. Plus a little bit more fetty, Skrilla Scratch, Pepe Cheddar cheese, Gouda guacamole in my pocket, if you know what I mean. So that's been good. Eating a lot of great sandwiches lately. Many delis up and down the peninsula up to San Francisco. But you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook for that nonsense, for any of you who care. So, I woke up this morning, did my 7 a.m. meeting down at the clubhouse by the creek, went out and had breakfast with a friend, and I just felt like I needed to do something different. And I ordered pancakes today, which I never get. Usually I'm a skillet or an omelet kind of guy. I like to have supernatural amounts of potatoes and eggs and cheese and everything else. Today we went with pancakes with whipped cream, raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries on top. It was like dessert for breakfast. Very tasty. Tried to do something different, but I've been in this mood the last couple of days. A lot of disappointment going on. I got to go back to the principles. I got to go back to what I've learned about the steps. And these things that disturb me that others are doing, I've done to others in the past, one way or another, or in similar ways. So thank God I was able to take responsibility for my life over the years in order for me to pardon and forgive others for when they're doing things that I don't agree with, or appreciate for that matter. So I've been taking some trips out to beaches and the bay and sometimes the forests, taking little walks. Very blessed and fortunate to be able to do those kinds of things because, years ago, I wasn't in a position to even make it out anywhere, and I was constantly working 2 jobs and on panic mode, very upset, disturbed. So coincidentally, today is July the 3rd, and it is a Friday. Now, why is that significant? Well, 28 years ago to the day of the week, on this date, around this time, in fact, it was a little bit after 3 p.m., I saw my father for the last time. He came to pick me up, and I hadn't seen him for a few months, and many of you know my story. He died of alcoholism at the age of 40, and it was a scary, horrific sight. He was suffering from what I didn't know at the time when I was 13, was liver failure and kidney damage and all this stuff from drinking alcohol. And I had gotten in the car with him many times under the influence of alcohol, but this time I would not do it. I was scared by the looks of his face. He had yellowness in the eyes and jaundice, and I just wouldn't do it. And I didn't know it was going to be the last time I ever saw him. He would die on July 5th, early in the morning, in the hospital. And you know my story if you've been listening to these episodes on these podcasts over the last 2 years. And you'd be like, man, why would this guy ever drink alcohol based on what he had to go through with his dad? And it's just one of those things. I decided to suffer in many ways that he did and find out for myself, how to live life. And fortunately, I was spared. So Yeah, I got to get my tarot cards read by my cousin Julie. We sat for about 4 hours, talked, went over my tarot cards that I shuffled up and drew. A lot of relevance in my life based on what she was reading and what she was being told by the universe. And it was a trip, man. But basically, we got to the end, we got to the last tarot card, and she told me that I had a life of living my message or carrying my message. And I told her, I said, that's all we do in the rooms of recovery. And, for me, when I'm disturbed like I was this morning, I wasn't like on panic mode, but there's times where I got to get on here and do these podcasts on a whim, like it's going to save my life. And yeah, many of you might be like, well, why don't you just go to a meeting, or why don't you just, call somebody? Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes I got to really revisit my past and put something together. I got to turn to the literature. I got a stack right here, boy. I got some good stuff to talk about today. And I got to go to what was the wisdom that was passed on to me to get through these things and get out of these funks. And I feel like I got some kind of a purpose. And hey, if a couple of you get something out of it, that's all great too. If not, at least you get to have a few laughs about some of the stuff I'm about to talk about. Because there's a lot of comedy in some of this. At the time, it's not so funny, but a few months and years go by of some healing. It's some funny stuff, I gotta say. So we're in 2016, okay? And I was working at the Office Bar and Grill, hanging on by a thread. I was still living in the Clean and Sober house in San Mateo, the Hillsdale house, which I currently manage and reside in. And I was having trouble hanging on, and I was going out and I was drinking. And I remember I was at the office and I got off work and I went to go. I went drinking, and I went on a little bender for like a day or two, and I ended up in the hospital. I got detox, I got my meds, all that stuff I normally have to do to get through it, to stop the bleeding, and anti-seizure medications, all this crazy stuff that goes through my mind. And I got to relax my nerves with some type of sedatives or whatever the heck they give me. So I had plans to go to my first Sharks game with my buddy Tim Cummings. So we went to the Sharks game, and I got a deal on the tickets. And I found out why I got a deal on the tickets. We had the last row at the very top, okay? So I must have had a tear in my esophagus or something, because I was huffing and puffing and panting like I was losing blood. So by the time we got to the top of the steps to get to the seats, I thought I was going to faint and die. Like I was tripping. And I didn't tell him that, but I was all out of breath, and I was so relieved when I got down to the seats. And then I was so mad when I had to go to use the restroom, because I had to walk all the way back down the stairs, go to the bathroom, come all the way back up. I'm hanging on for like dear life. I was just like so out of it. But I made it through. And I remember a couple of weeks had gone by or something, and I fell off the wagon again. And at this point, it was like becoming like less than 30-day occurrence, the relapses. And I was just tired. I was tired of going back and trying to hide from the members of the house. I was tired of causing havoc and having them wonder where I'm at, if I'm still alive, when I would desert the house for days on end, come back in a few days. And I just decided to like move out. And I had a friend from the fellowship who's also absolutely bonkers, just like me. She's one of my good friends today. I don't see her that often anymore because she moved to the East Bay, but I'm not going to say her name on camera, but by the story, some of you will be able to identify this woman. But she wanted to help me out, and she needed some support herself. She lived in Redwood City, and she had her daughter there a couple days a week, who was living in a foster home because of her misuse of drugs and alcohol over the years, and erratic behavior. And she had a hoarding problem. So she picked up a lot of stuff off the streets of Redwood City, and she'd pick it up and she'd throw it in her car and bring it home, and all this stuff would pile up in her home, right? So the deal was I was going to help her get rid of this stuff and clean up her house, and I was going to pay for the hauling. She didn't want me to pay any rent. She just wanted some support. It's okay, I'll tell you what. I'll pay for the hauling if you are serious about getting this house in order and getting rid of all this clutter and crap. I'll help you. I mean, she would come home with screen doors, and there's already screens on the doors. She'd pick up random cabinets and shelving and just clutter and just knickknacks, and be all over the house. and you couldn't even vacuum her, you couldn't even walk through. Her daughter would come to stay for the weekend, and she'd have to climb over a heap of garbage just to get into the bedroom. It was insane, right? So we had a real good time together. We'd laugh, and she'd listen to music, and we'd talk. But I was just I couldn't stop drinking. And at this point, I finally just disappeared from the Office Bar and Grill. A couple weeks later, I called up my manager. I said, "Hey, I gotta go to treatment," but I wasn't quite ready yet. I thought I was, and I decided not to go. So I ended up taking a job at Buca di Beppo in Palo Alto, right? So now I'm just hanging on, just trying to get some money together, pay some child support, and just feel somewhat responsible, get some self-esteem back. And I'm working with all these young kids, and they all party after work, and they're going to all the parties in Palo Alto afterwards. And I'm trying to explain to them, I don't do those things, and I really didn't want to, because I knew what was going to happen. I was trying to keep my addictions hidden, and so I was frustrated at this job, and then I would take on a job at Reposado, which is a high-end Mexican restaurant on Bryant Street in Palo Alto. This place is badass, man. I was so lucky to get in the door of this place and take this lunch shift job. It could have been very lucrative, but it only lasted like a week. And what happened was, one of the girls that I work with at Buca di Beppo, she looked like a plain Jane. Didn't really do her hair up, but she was nice, and she was cute. And then one day on my shift, she starts showing me these pictures of her in a bathing suit on her phone. I'm going, oh my God, I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So I'm all over it, right? I'm a sick, untreated addiction and alcohol, substance abuser. I'm just, all these sick thoughts go through my head, right? So she's inviting me to go out, and she told me she's going to be down at the Sports Page, which is a little sports bar and grill down on Shoreline in Mountain View. So one night I get off, and she says she's down there. She says, "Come meet me, pick me up, whatever." And I think she's still like feeling me, right? But so I got half a heat on, right? I get my $500 BMW that I bought from one of my coworkers, one of my old managers at the Office Bar and Grill, and I go down there, just lit up, right? And I show up to pick her up. I'm calling her. She's not answering. I go inside. She's talking to some dude, and this guy's holding her hostage. But this chick ain't going nowhere, man. So now I'm pissed. Get back in my car, put it in reverse. I actually slammed my car into a pole I couldn't see from behind me. And I completely dented the rear end, right? And smashed in the trunk and the bumper. It looked like shit. And so we we take off. And I said, forget it. Just call me later when you're done. I was pissed. So I leave, and I'm lucky I get pulled over, because it would have been curtains for me had I done that, But so I'm like in a weekend of training at Reposado. I don't even show up the next day to work, and the weekend goes by. I go back in to come to work, and I make up this cockamamie story about how I was in a car accident, I was incapacitated, and so they terminated me because they thought I just quit, and I didn't quit, but under the circumstances, they said, okay, I'll tell you what, our other restaurant down the street, Gravity, they needed a lunchtime server. Why don't you go down there? We'll put in a referral for you. We actually like it. So I said, okay, cool. So I take the job down the street, and the weekend goes by. The guy says, come in on Monday, we'll start you. Okay. So over the weekend, I get right back after it at the house, just at the house. Mike's Hard Lemonade, Steel Reserve. Nothing's getting done. I'm trying to clean the house, and I'm just in self-pity. It's just one of those things where, again, I can't emphasize enough. The character change has to take place in order to stop using substances. It's just the way it is. And so you can fight it, you can stay abstinent, but if your character isn't changed, you're going to be feeling the same way. And if you use things like I do, you're in big trouble. So a couple months ago, my buddy Kyle was asking me, why do you always say take the steps instead of do the steps or work the steps? Well, there's a particular reason. Because in our literature it says we took the steps. Here are the steps we took. Okay? But for further emphasis, I want to go to A New Pair of Glasses by Chuck C. And on page 27 in the chapter The Problem, this is how he explains it. Here are the steps we took. Now don't say, here are the steps we read or heard, or learned by heart. Don't say that. Don't say, here are the steps we interpreted. You can't find that in our book. So don't say that. Don't say, here are the steps we conned God into taking for us. It says, here are the steps we took. And the reason we have to take them is because we're caught in a trap we can't spring. We have to have help and can't get help until we recognize the need for it. Nobody knows me but God. But if I have to spread this dirty linen out before another human being, if I've got any ego left after that, I haven't done it. That's an ego buster. So I really like that. That's a further explanation of why. Take. I was a taker my whole life, so I had to take the steps in order to get rid of these behaviors. So I wasn't doing this. I mean, I was at the point where I finally didn't want to go to meetings anymore. So I remember I didn't go to meetings for like 3 weeks because I was sick and tired of going in there, announcing myself as a newcomer, saying, "Oh, I'm Dan." You know, I got tired of it. I was sick of it. So I suffered and I drank. And luckily, I didn't start using meth with her because she had some meth around. And for whatever reason, I could give you a list of 5 or 10 reasons why I didn't do it. But as in previous episodes before, I even snorted Advil because I wanted to have the rush of putting something on my nose. And I did that, and it was insane. Like, it didn't even do anything. So there was days where I'd get some cleaning done, and I remember I took like 2 days to clean the kitchen out, right? And it was all spick and span. And then I got off work, and I came home, and she's smoking pot, and her daughter and her they got Bisquick all over the kitchen. I mean, it's everywhere. Everything's like in disarray. She had this thing where she would take the microwave off of the counter after I cleaned it and put it back in front of the exit to the backyard on the floor. I said, why are you taking this microwave off of the counter inside of the kitchen and blocking to the backyard? It's on the floor. She'd get up in the morning to reheat her coffee, and she'd bend over to put the cup down in the microwave and hit start and wait and pick it back up. So I tried it again. I cleaned the place up. I picked and she kept putting her CDs back on top of the counter when there's no radio or CD player in the kitchen. It's mind-boggling, insanity. These are the habits of addicts and alcoholics. It's crazy. Why you would put a microwave in front of a door that you're constantly going out to go smoke your cigarettes or your pot, blocking the entrance and the exit. But that's just me. And probably many of you. So there's Bisquick everywhere. They're making pancakes or biscuits. I can't remember. She's trying to make something with bacon and shrimp or something. It was insane. The whole kitchen was absolutely destroyed. All my hard work, it was just for nothing. So anyway, I didn't make it to Gravity the first day. Stiffed them. Didn't get that job. They're calling me. I never showed up. Screwed them over. I remember I got wasted one day before work, and I wanted to leave work so bad at Buca di Beppo. I started to pretend to hyperventilate. And I didn't want them to have another episode like I did Macaroni Grill a couple years prior, or the ambulance shows up and I get carried out on the stretcher and all that. So I say I got to go. So my boss, my manager, says, I'll follow you because you're in no condition to drive. He didn't say he knew that I was sipping, but I think he kind of knew what was going on. So he followed me out to the parking lot. I try to speed off in my BMW, right? So I'm racing to get home. I'm trying to lose the guy. So he must have put in the address in his GPS of where I was going. So I pull up in the street. I pass out like this. I'm just so relieved just to be home, right? I'm all ready to go inside and just get it going with the Mike's Hard Limited and the Steel Reserve. I couldn't wait. As I'm laying back, he comes up and knocks on my window and goes, "Oh, you made it." I'm like, "Oh, geez." So anyway, kudos to him for making sure I got there safe. And he took off and went back to work. Hell of a guy, you know, but it was embarrassing, you know. So I would be so broke. This is where it gets bad. check this out. Sickness like this doesn't grow on trees. There's one day, so I start going back to meetings, right? And I get a couple weeks, and I'm down and out one day. I was constantly running out of money because it all went to booze and paying whatever necessary bills I had to get by and survive, right? So what would happen was that I had to eat, and I would never ask people for money unless it was absolutely necessary. I had way too much pride, right? And I was just like, you're capable of working, but you're choosing to make decisions with your mind that do not work, and you're losing jobs, and you're blowing through your money. So I would not ask anybody for any money for food. I refused, right? And I know some effing losers over the years who had no problem doing that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. That's about done. So I'd have to go to St. Anthony's Soup Kitchen, or I'd have to go to St. Vincent de Paul in San Mateo. Now, St. Anthony's Soup Kitchen is on Middlefield. It's a church, and there's a dining hall, right? And you can go through as many times as you want. And it's real. I mean, you want to talk about getting humbled? I'm showing up there, late 30s, totally capable of working if I would just stop using any substances. And it was a joke. It was so embarrassing. So I'd go there to get meals, right? And I'd go through the line a couple times, get my fill. Sometimes I'd be able to take home some vegetables or some bread. And there's people who are really in dire need of getting any type of food that they can get. Or they're working jobs that don't pay very well, and they're taking a break, and they're in the area, and they're coming through to get a quick lunch on the house, right? Great cause. I even volunteered there a couple times just to be of service to people, to give back, because I was so appreciative. Many times on these runs, I'd take buses to this place and go get in line. And it's humiliating when you're a guy like me. And so one day I drove over there, and I'm loaded, right? And I got my steel reserves going, and I put down 140 ounce of steel reserve in the parking lot, and I went and got some food, came out. And I'm just sitting there listening to like Oakland A's baseball or something. Oh, no, it was in the wintertime, so I wasn't. I was listening to sports talk radio, and so I finished the second 40 ounce of steel reserves. Now I'm really good and loose, right? So now a couple hours going by, I'm still in this parking lot. Now keep in mind, there's police and security going through, and I'm hiding it pretty good. I look pretty innocent. I'm some clean-cut looking white boy with this baby face, and I'm hanging out in my $500 BMW, and so I decided to take a nap. So I take a nap. I come to, and now I'm like, it's hot, right? So I refused to go use the restroom inside. I didn't want to fumble in there. So I started filling up the empty 40 ounce bottles with my own urine. Okay, and I'm filling them to the brim because I put down coffee in the morning. I had been drinking before I got there, plus the 240 ounces of steel reserve. So I take a little nap again. I come back up, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like driving over to the AM/PM. I don't even feel like walking over to the AM/PM to get some more booze, right? So the sick thought comes to my mind. I said, I have multiple DUIs. There's got to be a reason why the police officers would give me the option of taking a urine test to see what alcohol content I have inside of my bottles, right? So if I'm inside of there and I'm taking the test and I'm urinating into a cup and they can see how much alcohol is in, they can measure it, I bet you that if I was to drink my own urine with alcohol, I'd be able to maintain the heat on, right? So I said, screw it, what do I gotta lose? So I take the first 40 ounce, boom, pound it down, slam it down. There's like no flavor, it was just like water. I was shocked. I didn't taste anything in it. So I said, I don't get sick. I said, oh, hell, I might as well get the second one down. So I take the second 40 ounce of urine, pound that down. So I think about it for a couple minutes. Now I'm like one of my lowest points. I'm just like, what the heck did I just do? So anyway, I doze off for a little bit. Somehow I get out of there, go back to the house. And the next morning I go into the 7 a.m. meeting. And somebody does the reading. And I jump right in, right? So I'm at my lowest point, but there's great relief in being transparent and just telling people your embarrassing stuff. So the secret's out. So now everybody's like, oh, no. Yeah, they couldn't believe I was telling the story at group level. And a couple people made some wisecracks. That's what we do down at 1133 Eaton Avenue. They throw some wisecracks in there in the shower. And so shockingly enough, 2 people after came up to me and said, "Oh, hey Dan, thanks for sharing that. I need to hear that because I've done that too. I just haven't admitted it at a group level like you just did. I didn't have the courage." So anyway, I got some relief out of that, knowing that I'm with other sickies, and so I'm not the only one. I don't recommend it. In fact, I hear it's a big thing to drink your own urine in India for whatever reason. Google it. I don't know. So it wasn't before long. I'm hanging out with my friend Molly again, right? She's on a run herself, and she's using the arm candy, and we're hanging out. And she's driving around my car. She's trying to get her fixes to get her stuff, and we're going to Target, and she's trying to shoplift, and alarms are going off, and she's trying to go get purses from random bars. It was insane. I said, "Look, right now I'm just an alcoholic. I'm not into all this extracurricular activity for crime. I always paid for my own cocaine. I don't do all this. This is very foreign to me." So I'm freaking out. She's got the steering wheel. She's high on meth and and the arm candy, and we're going all over town. She's gonna take me up to San Francisco. I'm drinking the Steel Reserve. It was complete mayhem. So finally, it was a Sunday morning. I decided to go to the meeting at 7 a.m. Well, she decided to sleep. Okay, so I go inside the meeting at 7 a.m. and I come out and she's still unconscious. She's sleeping it off. So I'm thinking she's just getting well from the heroin, right? So my buddy Rick and this other girl named Peony, they invite me to go to church. I said, okay, I'll leave her here. So I lock the doors to make sure nobody, some sickie from the creek comes up and tries to, take advantage of her while she's passed out. I go to church, hang out, come back a couple hours later. I show up. My back window is smashed. I said, what the heck happened? She's sitting outside on the curb. So she came to while I was gone at church. She decides she wants to get out. Well, for some reason, you can't unlock the doors from the inside. The electrical won't let you do it. So she's calling, there's people outside the parking lot from the fellowship trying to get her in. They don't know how to get the doors open. They can't help her. They call the fire department. The fire department comes out and they smash the window to my car. So now I had to cardboard that up and tape it up. And she goes, I think you need a break from me. I've put you through enough. And she disappeared. And she went to the city. And I didn't see her for 3.5 years after that day. But thank God she's back. She's celebrated 2 years off the H and alcohol and everything else. So, so that's what happened with that. So eventually, I'm just in a bad place. I'm bouncing around trying to talk to different sponsors. My buddy Tom, who's about my age, he had just gotten about a year or two. I was asking his sponsor for help. The guy I was working with was going through some treatment for Hep C, so he was like out of action, right? So his sponsor referred me to him, and we started meeting, and I'm just down and out. I'm at this house with this woman who's a hoarder. She means well, but I mean, all I'm doing is getting loaded, listening to the Michael Savage podcast with her, getting all wound up about the 2016 election. It was all bad. I was absolutely going nowhere. I was not employable again. So I walked into, it was I want to say May at this time now. It was May of 2016. And I walked into work. I said, I got to go to treatment. I'm not worth nothing. I'm going to be a burden to you guys. I got to get out of here. Yeah. And, Drop the Rock is a great book about step 6 and 7. If you haven't read it, it's great. No matter what 12-step fellowship you're in. So it says on page 58, it says, in asking God to remove our shortcomings, we must move and act in a manner that reflects our willingness and surrender. To do this requires spiritual values, service, perspective beyond our addiction to alcohol, drugs, food, sex, and so on, to the addictive nature of our lives, asking through prayer and being willing to receive through humility, trust and asking for help, overcoming fear, understanding the trusting process, dealing with stress, responsibility and action, solution-focused thinking. The dictionary defines humility as the state or quality of being humble of mind or spirit, absence of pride or self-assertion or acts of self-abasement. Humble is defined as having or showing a consciousness of one's defects or shortcomings, not proud, not self-assertive, modest. So, I didn't want to go to my 7th treatment center, but at this point, I just won't stop. I didn't really want to stop. I didn't want to do anything. It was terrible. And Harry Tiebot, the collective writings, the doctor I've talked about, he says this. This is on page 83. The discussion of ego reduction has completed the presentation of the 4 insights that grew out of a study of the conversion process witnessed in AA. To recapitulate, these are 1, the need to hit bottom, 2, the need to be humble, 3, the need to surrender, 4, the need for the primary ego to be reduced. His salvation lies in keeping that ego reduced and staying humble. So again, for me, I had to be humiliated to get humble. So it's not easy walking into multiple treatment centers over and over and over again because of many reasons, which I've discussed over the past few episodes. It's just like you get tired of going back there. What happened this time? Why didn't it stick? You know, all these stupid questions. It's like, I don't know. We don't really know. Read the literature. We don't know why we do the things we do. All we know is that we're not conducting our lives successfully for whatever reason. And it all starts with thought. That I know for sure. Anybody can just stay off and not drink, not use drugs. You know, anybody. It doesn't matter. For me, I got to live by principles. The I Ching has been one of the greatest gifts ever given to me in this lifetime. The Book of Changes. Now, Brian Walker describes the I Ching perfectly. I know this is backwards, but I'm verbalizing it to you out loud. I got all these great bookmarks from Stella a couple weeks ago. She made like 7 or 8 of them. It's been fantastic. All right. Progress. The extent to which we progress is determined by how far we distance ourselves from inferior influences. Okay, so that could be relationships, choices, thoughts. It could be all kinds of things. It is important when success comes not to fall into the traps of the ego, taking credit for gains, resting on laurels, indulging in desires, or plodding toward ambitions. The superior person instead uses times of progress to brighten his virtue, recognizing that it was his commitment to proper principles that brought success in the first place. I wasn't using any of those. Today I am. Very blessed. Continue to purify your thoughts, attitudes, and conduct now. The greatest power in this beneficial time accrues to those who serve the higher power in every moment.